Hi, and welcome to GamesRadar Plus's dissection of the exciting new Star Wars trailer. I'm Dave Bradley, and I'm here with Mr. Dan Dawkins and Mr. Jordan Farley. Right, so we'll work our way through the trailer and get into some detail here, get quite forensic, but what we're not going to do is go full-on spoilerific. We haven't tried to read any of those blown scripts or anything. We're just going from the kind of speculation that any fan could put together from what they see in front of us. So Jordan, we're looking at Rey here, right? What's interesting about this image?
Yeah, well, basically in this scene, she's scavenging the inside of a hollowed-out Star Destroyer, and I guess the interesting thing about her goggles are that they appear to have been salvaged from a Stormtrooper's helmet. They're the visor that a Stormtrooper would have on their helmet. Yeah,
it gives her quite a distinctive costume. I mean, I think that the most interesting thing right at the start of this trailer is the inside of the Star Destroyer, right? I mean, that's actually quite an epic, iconic scene that we haven't seen before.
Yeah, things interesting for me is this environment in a decaying form is really fascinating and compelling. I'm interested in why is she here? What is she looking for, right? There's speculation about that, but it's clearly something significant. That's why she's taking a risk. And, is this Star Destroyer of greater significance than, a generic Star Destroyer?
Right.
Is it the one the Emperor arrived in? Is it something else? Again, I don't know. I haven't followed all the hype rumours, but this seems to be something exciting within.
Yeah, absolutely. And then we see the planet Jakku, where the battle has taken place on. I mean, here we've got BB-8 going across the sands.
Yeah, he's awesome, isn't he? I still can't believe he's practical. Proper magic.
And all of this harks back to those classic trilogy shots, right? So the desert planet and those vistas.
Yeah, totally. And when I see that, and it's about the framing and the widescreen feel of it, and just the open desert and the expanse and the sense of, I suppose, much like Star Wars, where you see Luke and he's looking out onto this wider universe. It's like the world's open in front of them.
Yeah, right.
It's really exciting, and I think it just sets it up. And in my mind, when I see it, I'm hearing the right. It's just all, it's fantastic.
And then there's sort of nods to the wider universe as well. There's clearly an AT-AT foot in this shot. It's just a second, but you glimpse it, and a ship taking off.
Yeah, she appears to be salvaging these parts of leftover remnants of the Empire for her own means, like creating shelter and things like that.
Yeah. Salvaging parts of the original Star Wars story.
And there's a real sense of almost like the people in this universe, in this trailer, piecing together what happened then. The history we sort of take as fact, for them it's 20 to 30 years ago, and it's what's happened to make that feel like more of a memory to us. Weirdly, it's quite vivid. Like, what are they trying to put together? And again, what's the question is, what's that spaceship taking on?
Right. And she's sort of sat there in this tent looking out towards the open sky. So as well as piecing together bits of the past, we get that ongoing sense that there's something more to her, that she's quite wistful.
Yeah, I mean, there's a great bit of dialogue where Lupita Nyong'o's Maz Kanata says, "Who are you?" to Rey, and then Rey replies saying, "I'm no one," which the implication is that, she is no one at this point in her story, but, she's going to go on to be someone very important.
Right.
Or someone who knows better than to say who she is. So let's find out.
But then, of course, we're straight back to a shot that we've seen from an earlier trailer. We're here with the First Order on what we can now assume is Starkiller Base, right? So the ice planet. So, Jordan, there's some actual information about this on the official Star Wars site.
There is. Basically, the official description for Starkiller Base is an ice planet converted into a stronghold of the First Order and armed with a fiercely destructive new weapon capable of destroying entire star systems. And the implication there is that this base that we saw on the poster is this weapon capable of destroying star systems.
And then we're talking of the First Order Stormtroopers. We're here right in. So this is a shot that is subtly different, right, from what we've seen of Finn before.
Appears to be a slightly different take to a similar shot we've seen in another trailer, yeah.
We get the impression that he's horrified by something, and that would go along with the speculation that he starts off as a stormtrooper, and the dialogue that we hear in the trailer would seem to confirm that he's been a stormtrooper all his life.
Yeah, I mean, he says, "I was raised to do one thing, but I've got nothing to fight for." The implication there is that he was basically born as a stormtrooper, born and raised to be this fighter.
There's also a sense from the next scene where we see a TIE fighter crashing to the ground.
Yeah.
Is that his TIE fighter? And is someone trying to take him down? Is it from the base that someone's realised he's defecting, or he's escaping, or he's become disaffected?
What I love about this shot and a few of the shots in the trailer actually is the way that it's very reminiscent of moments that we remember from the original trilogy. Like the shot where the ship's taking off and Rey's watching reminds me of Luke looking at the twin suns in A New Hope, and this shot with Finn looking over Jakku reminds me of R2 and 3PO wandering through the desert and Tatooine. All these moments need to mirror those moments beat for beat almost.
Yeah. But then we're straight on to what we can assume is the bridge of a Star Destroyer.
Definitely looks like it. But I mean, I guess this laser could be from Starkiller Base or whatever that weapon is.
Yeah, I'm guessing that's the case. I mean, we have, this is the first time we've seen this shot, and this is all speculation, but it's got to be them observing Starkiller Base firing a weapon, isn't it?
Like I also like as well, like the light strips, the white light strips evoke that iconography we saw of the old Empire when you see like Darth Vader's like meditating pod and the light strips in that. Like I love how tied in it is.
So at this point, we also get the first bit of Kylo Ren dialogue. Okay. Unless you bought the toy and we press the button on the back of him and you hear the dialogue there. He says, "Nothing will stand in our way. I will finish what you started." Obviously referring to, well, the implication being that he's talking to Darth Vader there.
And you see his helmet, don't you?
Yeah, his hat literally appears. And again, we can only assume that this is Darth Vader's burnt helmet from Return of the Jedi, right? So again, where did he get it? What's his purpose in recovering these artifacts? We'll see.
I also wonder if his own helmet is something that he's salvaged in some way, because you look at it in that shot where he's torturing Poe, and it looks like it's battle damaged or it's marked or something. Either it previously belonged to someone or he's been through a few fights himself.
Do we also think when he says torturing him, like Poe looks distressed, he's crying, he looks angry, like... how is he torturing him? Is he using like the Force? Is Kylo Ren in the mastery of the dark arts of the Force, or is it like the equivalent of the old floaty electric droid thing? I genuinely don't know. Do you think he is using the Force on him?
Well, he's not a Sith. We know that. We know he's one of the Knights of Ren, which implies that he maybe doesn't have full mastery of the Force, but he's in touch with it in some way, I would imagine.
And then it goes outside, and this is where we differ from some of the early trailers, because we're about to see some great aerial combat, some aerial stuff. We see an explosion there, and then whoosh, straight into the Millennium Falcon and TIE Fighters.
What do we think that brief snapshot of like the sort of forest being torn apart is? Do we think that's the Starkiller base in action, or is that something else?
It would seem so. My first thought when I first watched this actually was that this is some kind of image that Ren was putting into Poe's head during that torture.
That's interesting.
I wonder if it was some kind of vision he was giving him, but it could just be an actual moment of destruction.
Well, it would be the first time we've seen it in any of the trailers for the new film, A Forest World, right? So is that maybe a vision of Endor being torn apart?
Oh, no, the Ewoks.
Oh, not the Ewoks. Oh, I like the Ewoks.
But then we've got spaceship combat, right? We've got dogfighting. And that's to me, the thing that always excited me about the Star Wars universe.
Yeah, and this shot is just gorgeous. And it's the moment where the music really starts to swell and you get that real moment of celebration where the music kicks in.
Oh, the music! I mean, you're invested already now, right? But when the music starts, it's just absolutely sensational. Like, it's so powerful and evocative. Like, it speaks to that literally the child inside me who remembers that the first time around. And I think it's actually very clever, the restrained use of it here and the orchestration. It just does enough to give you the tingles.
And what I like about this, and what I think we're going to see from J.J. Abrams as well, is these are clearly familiar maneuvers and familiar shots, but just done with a very modern take on it. So we're all familiar with the Millennium Falcon flying away from TIE Fighters, but those kind of swoops and turns and the camera tracks, that's all new, isn't it? That's all JJ.
Yeah, it feels very modern.
Yeah.
But still Star Wars.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is a really important moment. I think it's probably the biggest reveal in the trailer where Rey basically says there are stories about what happened. Like, basically, everyone's forgotten what happened, which seems unbelievable given the universe-shaping events of the original trilogy. But, everyone's forgotten that the rebels defeated the Empire.
I think as well, we actually talked about this in the office, because one of the guys in our office was flabbergasted that they could have forgotten. But I think you forget that you're talking about a universe-wide event, right?
Yeah.
And so, like, what we see as fact and is very certain, as in Luke defeats Darth Vader to restore order to the universe and everything was okay, amen, after that. Like, maybe most people in the universe never knew that battle took place. Maybe they never truly realised the scale of the war between the rebels and the Imperials. Like, they just never knew the full context. Like, we zeroed in a very particular way on that world. I wonder if the universe just didn't, and it became passed into fable.
Yeah, when we see it here. And, of course, this is the moment where Han Solo comes into it again, right? So... Harrison Ford's still got it, hasn't he?
Yeah, he has. I love that. There's a great story about JJ telling Harrison Ford not to do his growly voice that he's done for like the last 20 years, and I love his delivery on these lines. It just feels quintessential Han. But there's a lovely idea in this trailer that Han was the original skeptic in The New Hope. He was the one who was doubtful of the Force and all things like this. And here, he's the one that's going, it's all true. The Jedi, the dark side, it's all real.
Wow.
He's become the prophet, isn't he? I think that's really interesting. It's good to see him with that scale and the pan of the universe and the holograms. He really is like, let me tell you a story of how it went down. Fantastical. And say for us, so vivid. For them to recount it like a tale is awesome. Han as well, I will say. I love Han Solo. Like, I love him so much. It's almost had a distortional effect on my entire life. Like, I would dress like him every day if I could. And like, what is great is that Harrison Ford, he's been in a lot of movies where you thought he maybe hasn't engaged as much as you'd like. Like, he looks, even though he looks haunted in this, he looks on it, and I'm not in any way upset by like his portrayal.
No, absolutely. And then what happens here is, in the Millennium Falcon leaps into hyperspace. But again, it's another example of what I think is the familiar and the modern. So I can, in my dreams, see a spaceship accelerate into hyperspace. And it does that here, but then we sort of see down the tunnel, and I don't think that's a pretty new shot, isn't it, of the ship from the side in hyperspace?
Yeah, we've always gone into hyperspace,
yeah.
front-facing, first-person view. We've never sort of gone the other side of the wormhole. It's like seeing behind the curtain, isn't it? It's amazing.
Yeah. It's a little bit Star Trek-y, but I forgive him for that, because Star Trek almost feels like a trial run for Star Wars now.
Right.
Okay, really big scene next, it feels like.
Yeah, absolutely. The tri-saber, the broad saber. I'm not quite sure what we're calling it.
Yeah, broad saber is what I've taken to calling it. But I mean, this appears to be the Knights of Ren, which we mentioned earlier. That would be my guess who these people are. But I mean, the other strange thing is that these other knights don't have lightsabers, don't have their own broad sabers. They all have blasters, which, you know, the implication there is that Kylo is the only one who can tap into the Force.
Right.
And it's got the feel almost of it, whilst still they're very dark and shady, and the knights sound so important. You know, it almost feels like a fan club.
Right.
We're all super fans of the stories. Like, it's almost like a cosplay exhibition, you know, where one of them has just lucked out and managed to channel the Force. You know, like, let's really see how significant they are. But it feels like if they are the ultimate threat in this universe, it doesn't feel very authentic in the way the Emperor did, or in the way that Darth Vader did. They felt very fully resolved.
Yeah. And here we are with X-Wings.
Okay, I guess this is the scenes we've seen with Poe Dameron's character flying across what we presume is the water of another planet, like not Jakku, is that right?
Yeah, it would seem so. It's definitely not a desert planet, is it?
And what do we know of his character? What do we think, what role he plays?
Poe Dameron, I mean, we know he's the best freaking pilot in the galaxy. We know that, and we know he was sent on a mission by a princess, which presumably has to be Leia. But that's it, basically.
He and Rey and Finn are the trilogy at the heart of the new story, aren't they? In the way that Han, Luke, and Leia were the heart of the last one.
Seems that way. And yeah, this is the kind of fortress that the X-Wings are flying towards, that the Stormtroopers have holed up in. And there appears to be a big aerial dogfight going on above them.
So it seems like the X-Wings we've seen storming in are like storming into battle for some reason at some location that's being either attacked or defended by stormtroopers.
Yeah, right.
Ambiguous.
And I think actually, like, as the scene progresses, we might get a clearer sense of where this location actually is and who is there, because I think here we're seeing, all the good guys together, and it looks like, is this the area where in a minute the battle takes place? Do we think?
Yeah, absolutely. And you could get the sense there that Poe is engaging with Finn, who's now on their side, and giving him what is either a reassuring or a warning pat on the shoulder. And then we're back to what we assume are earlier shots, because this is back on Jakku, isn't it, with explosions?
Yeah, and something really blowing up.
They're being attacked by a TIE fighter, so I guess this is where they make their escape.
Yeah, right. And then here we go. What's this place?
So this is really interesting. We don't know exactly what it is. I mean, my first thought is that it's either some kind of Jedi or Sith temple, or it's Maz Kanata's castle.
Right. With some almighty Titanic droid on the right there.
Yeah, very cool looking robot.
Yeah, the robot looks like an escapee from one of the Borderlands games. So, like, yeah,
right.
It feels at the same time.
It does.
It's iconically Star Wars. This temple, to me, I totally buy into the idea of it being like Lupita Nyong'o's character's castle.
Yeah. I guess the idea is that in that castle are potential artifacts, so it might be that they're going there to get Luke's lightsaber,
which we see in an earlier trailer being handed over.
Exactly.
And talking of which, here is who we assume to be Luke, or certainly, as in the earlier trailer, someone with a robotic hand who's got a connection to R2-D2.
I mean, it's almost definitely Luke, isn't it? It's quite strange that everyone's going, "Where's Luke?" when it's probably him right there.
Yeah, and like, again, where is he? It looks almost like a volcano planet, which sort of makes you think, or it evokes, willingly or not, the end of Revenge of the Sith.
That's right, Mustafar.
And kind of the scenes of, where his father was born in a way, the tragedy from which his father was born. That seems significant in itself. And also like the fact, like, his robotic hand now, there's no disguise or pretense, so he's not got a glove on it. He's just embracing the fact that that's who he is now. He's obviously not doing it for show,
Yeah.
So this is Kylo Ren's command shuttle landing on a planet. I mean, this scene, it appears to be some kind of massacre, basically.
Yeah.
The First Order turns up, kills everyone on this planet. I wonder if this is outside Maz Kanata's castle as well, because I'm not sure if it is Jakku or if it's somewhere else. It's hard to tell because it's at night.
And then Han and Chewie again, captives alongside Finn.
Yeah, although there's the classic moment of them looking like they're caught, but actually they're not, because Han starts to lower his hands and he looks a little bit surprised about who's accosting them. So it could just be that, could be Leia on the other side of that camera for all we know.
Is it Leia in like a scout walker? That would be really hilarious. Rescuing Chewie.
Also, Chewie has his bicep bandaged.
He does.
I don't know what he's been up to. Bit of an injury there.
Yeah.
I love this shot of BB-8 just like doing a double take as all these like hundreds of TIE fighters fly towards him. He's like, whoa! Proper dogfights.
Proper dogfighting,
brilliant.
Yeah, now, the only thing I'd say about this is there's a lot going on, and one of the things that always annoyed me about the prequel trilogy was those space set dogfight scenes where there was too much going on, too much CGI, too many ships to really fathom. This is the closest that the trailer so far come to disappointing me that way. There's a lot going on in this scene. So here we've got the Millennium Falcon flying through the body of another vessel. This could either be the Star Destroyer earlier on or Starkiller Base later on, catching on fire.
Yeah, and the significant scene here, it looks like, is that the command center of like a Star Destroyer being
the one we saw earlier, perhaps?
Yeah, is it so?
Seems so. And I love the little detail in the shot of the mouse droid just escaping at the bottom of the frame.
Yeah, fantastic.
It's like everyone else gets blown up. He just gets out of there with his life.
I like the idea that it's the same mouse droid all the way through from the first film. Anyway, here we've got Leia.
Oh yeah, lovely moment. Embraced with Han. I wonder if this is if the implication here is that they're still a thing, if they're still a couple, or if they're being reunited, or it's hard to tell. I mean, that expression, obviously Leia's not very happy, but it's obviously an emotional moment.
Like why is she sad? Is it that she's been separated from Han for whatever reason? We don't know why. Is it sadness at finally seeing him, sadness at seeing him and being happy, but also really worried about the overall situation?
Yeah, and maybe he's going back into battle.
But there's a tenderness there, right? And I think whatever's happened between them, this clearly brought them together.
We see Finn holding a blue lightsaber and facing up against who we can assume is
Kylo Ren, I presume. Although he doesn't appear to have his helmet on because his locks appear to be flowing. It's an incredible moment. I mean, this seems to be the one big lightsaber fight in the film. I mean, it's the only one we've been given a glimpse of so far. And I mean, you can kind of read into this and the way that Finn reacts to Kylo Ren accosting him. He's almost taken on the back foot, like he's surprised almost. Maybe he's not expecting it, or maybe he's just intimidated. Because I guess at this point, Finn, he was a stormtrooper. Where did he learn to wield this lightsaber? Right. Where is he trained to take on Kylo Ren? And
it feels like it ties into the voiceover of almost he's someone who's had a calling and he's not ready for it, and he's being forced to do something he doesn't feel ready to do. You contrast that scene with, say, where the end of episode 4, where it's the Jedi Master, it's Obi-Wan versus Darth Vader, masters of their art facing off. Here the conflict is two people who feel almost like kids being forced to play roles they don't fully believe in yet. Like it's a really exciting, tense moment, I think, for those reasons. That idea of how's this going to go, how's it going to play out.
Absolutely.
And again, at this point there's a little bit of voiceover where Maz Kanata says, the Force is calling you, just let it in. Presumably, she's talking to Finn, although earlier in the trailer she's talking to Rey, so there's a little bit of confusion there. But one of them is Force sensitive, at least.
Well, it feels to me like she's calling to me because I'm excited about this now. We're at the end of the trailer, so we've got until December to wait. But I think it's fair to say that we're fully excited about it.
Oh, fully pumped. And I mean, I'd urge everyone to let us know in the comments what they think about the, what we've said. Add some stuff, non-spoilers, please, and do subscribe to more great stuff on the channel, from Star Wars and our broader film coverage. But yeah, I'm so excited. I read people going, "Oh, it's just a giant marketing vehicle." Of course it is, you dumbass. but just get on the ride, right? You're not some grand inquisitor revealing that to me. I know, but I'm on board, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
100%.
Well, Dan, Jordan, thanks. I'm Dave, and keep it Games Radar.